Can you hear me?
No, you're frozen just a little bit and
I'm
kind of in and out.
frozen.
Now you're getting better. There you go.
Oh,
It's
okay.
good. It's good
Wow.
now.
What happened? Oh, all righty then. Well, welcome to VK's Career Conversation. I have Dave Smith. And what
You can
happened?
keep going. You can
I have Dave Smith and I have, oh God, Dr. Pinkston. I always get that wrong. I don't know why I want to rename you. What is that all about? Please
It's
tell
all
me. I don't know. I don't know. Well, ladies, why don't y'all come on here and tell the people a little bit about yourself and we'll get this conversation going, asserting your dominance.
go day.
Go
Okay. Well,
Dave.
thank you, Dr. Pinkston, for allowing me to go first. I feel like we're like BFFs now in this conversation. We've been together a few times, but I am Dave Smith. I am the owner and founder of Simplicity by Day. I help simplify the lives of business owners and busy professionals by upgrading their organizational systems and their technology, all the things that give them headaches in their digital life, so they can be more productive and profitable and purposeful in their day to day.
Okay. Well, I'm waiting on Day to come on over here and make my life a lot simpler than what it is now. I tell you, sometimes I feel like everything is just a chaotic mess in my computer world. So, hey, Day, looking forward to it.
Yay.
And Dr. Pinkston, can you please tell them?
Sure. And we're all waiting on day. That's
Right.
you can do that in the medical world too. So you can get sorted.
Yes.
I am Dr. Marianne Pinkston. I am a family practitioner and an integrative medicine specialist in San Antonio, Texas. I have branched out into the podcast world, though, so you can find my podcast and my YouTube as a radio show also here in San Antonio. But I do have a private practice where I see patients. I do a lot of varied things in family practice, but I also like to concentrate on weight loss and sexual health and some other issues, thyroid, a lot of autoimmunity, things like that. It's very varied, but definitely love seeing patients. And I want to tell people they can go find everything at drpbetterlife.com. But please look me up, and always glad to be here. Hello.
Well, hello and welcome, ladies. Day was not on the last conversation we had. She was taking a little R&R vacation with her
about her.
family. Yeah, but we did talk about you. We talked about you
Oh,
always. We definitely missed you, and we're just so excited to have. I'm excited to have both of you guys on, and I really feel like you guys are the perfect ladies that will give true conversation to asserting your dominance. And I really wanted to talk about that from a professional woman aspect, and how do you feel about it? And then also from the male perspective, how do they perceive you when you're asserting your dominance? So let's just go in there and just start the conversation.
Sure.
So with that being said, Dr. Pinkston, I think you're in a male dominating field.
Yeah, pretty much.
And yes, for sure. And so I'm sure there are times as a physician that you have to assert, probably more often than not, your dominance. So let's talk about that.
It's I'm glad we're talking about this. I come from a kind of a Lubbock, Texas, so way up in West Texas, very traditionally very conservative,
Mhm.
very male dominated. But I grew up in a family where my dad was, very, very supportive of me and everything I was doing, and a great grandfather too. Lots of great male role models. So I was never really scared of myself in that sphere, even though if you're going to be, back in the 70s, 80s, even early 90s, that was a difficult time to be a female. My mom was a single parent and owned her own business, going to school. And so, she was in that world as well, and kind of leading that forefront for women to, kind of take their place in their role as a working woman, and as a woman, maybe a mom, things like that. So I had some great examples and support around me. But yeah, getting into medical school and getting into that field, it was very interesting. It is very male dominated, especially in certain subjects. So like surgery or, things like that, where it was. But, this is, and even in the field now, I don't see it so much these days. I really don't deal with it very often. It is, it's really more about dating and everything these days, and, being a woman and things like that, more than it is professional. I feel like it's flip-flopped. They're much more accepting in the professional sense, but in the dating sense and everything, boy, that's a nightmare. But but I feel like, things have gotten better over the years, but definitely going through, medical school and things like that, it was very interesting, and taught more how to handle that.
So, Dave, let me ask a question of you. Thanks, Dr. Pinkston. Pickerson. I want to ask you, Dave, do you in the field of sales, do you find that to be difficult, or is it not? How do you deal with it? Or do you deal with it?
I think when I entered the sales force 15 years ago, there was a lot of women at a certain level, like in the individual roles, and a lot of managers and above, they were male. And so, and that was just the dynamic for whatever reason. But nowadays, women have started to, excel and be in different roles in leadership. And so that has started to change the dynamics, because once you have women in leadership, there's a different perspective. They bring a different element to it. They have just, I don't want to say a softness, but more of a team culture. The culture changes sometimes. Sometimes it's not as good. Yes. Sometimes it's like, oh, I wish they would go away. But I think that in sales, it has shifted, and that's been my experience so far in the sales field, for sure.
And if I think about myself in the field that I'm in, on the healthcare side, from administration, operations, I think one of the biggest things is you're expected, as a consultant, as a business owner, you're expected. They first see the woman, then they think that they can kind of strong arm you sometime. And then when you assert and say, hey, I'm sorry, this is what we're doing, this is how I'm going to do it, I think you kind of I put them back on their heels, and they'll try to come back at you. And it's people that are not comfortable with you pushing back, they tend to want to give you that look as if you're difficult to work with. But I think that's an internal thing that you have to push past, because it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. Absolutely. Because pushing back and standing up for what you believe in and your company and your employees, I think that's what you're supposed to do, whether you're a male or a female.
Yeah, as a leader, you do have you have to stand strong and should be a good example. And I wonder if it's now more of an age thing, because I'll give you an example. There was a great meteorologist here in town who kind of retired and now is just on Facebook a lot, still gives his opinions, and he really he's retired now. I'm sure he's in his late 70s at least, and a part of the old kind of old culture. And he really opened up about a woman superior and an experience, and it was definitely a deep wound in there somehow between he and somebody female. But I've noticed that seems to be more of an older male issue, and I feel like the younger generation has a very different view and value of it. So I feel like we're in kind of a transition now. Once the baby boomers are graduating out, maybe it'll be a different.
I would agree with you 100%, because it is, most of the time I found that it is the older male that is, and then if I can be very transparent, I found for me, it's the older white male that tend to have a problem with the female woman of color.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that's across the board, because it's not. I have clients that are from all walks of life, but I found those to be sometimes the most difficult ones.
Yes.
Are the ones that struggle with having that, understanding the boundaries and respecting those boundaries there.
There's kind of
I
a
agree.
personality differences too. So if you look at people who maybe not have a medical diagnosis of a personality disorder, but they have traits of either narcissism or, some issue where they are unable to, be diplomatic and let their opinion be challenged to, some extent.
Right.
Not their leadership position be challenged, not their the place that they are, but maybe some ideas, be challenged a bit. Sometimes there's a personality issue there too, and kind of a narcissistic take to it. So
I think it was, and I love you taking it from a medical perspective, because that is
Mm-hmm.
something that definitely is something you have to think about, because they're used to really their opinion. It's their opinion, but
yeah,
it's more than just their opinion. It could be just a psychological thing that they have going on with some.
absolutely.
And if you don't mind me being as candid as I always, little man syndrome. But I don't know if that's a real diagnosis, but that's just mine. Have you guys ever experienced, from a woman's perspective, have you ever experienced someone you felt when you're trying to negotiate or work with someone that have pushed back on you simply because you're a woman
Sure.
Yeah,
and you've
I've
had to
experienced this.
go
Oh, I
ahead?
was going to say, I not only as a woman, I think I've experienced more ageism than anything in my career,
Yes.
I'm sure.
Okay.
and it's almost as if, because I think I accelerated quickly
Mm.
in my career and achieved things earlier. And I may look young still, so even if I'm like I'm 37, they're like, "Are you really?"
Mm.
So I think
Yes.
I have experienced ageism with the older generation, where if I say something, it's not valued. Someone else says it, they hear them. I'm always getting a mentor when I see other people that come in, which I'm okay with that, but other people will come into the role and not have to have that person walk them through as if they have more experience than me. I've seen that done. And then even titles, the same promotion, I'm going to be called an associate, or I got to come in at a senior versus an executive. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like this implied, ageism, or that's what I've experienced more in my career.
Okay. Mhm.
So when that happens, or when that has happened, and that is true, when that happened, how do you deal with it? What do you do?
I'm gonna be honest. I have not. When you talked about dominance, I have not spoken up for myself as much as I
Mm,
should have, because I
mm.
didn't really know what the consequences would be.
Yeah.
Um, if this is just the way it is. But it's funny because recently, I I had someone say little things at a meeting, and I actually had my one of my first conversations with them, and it was he didn't know he was making these mistakes. It was like, like, oh, I didn't mean to, very apologetic. And
Sure.
I said it in a way that was conversational and kind of joking. That was the best, that was the most comfortable way I could address it. But it
Mhm.
was my first conversation. So that has not been in my pattern. And so I think just with age and confidence, maybe I'm moving into that space to be more vocal. I hope it
And
continues.
I think that's something that Dr. Pinkston and myself can kind of talk on, because I think when I think of my career, when I first started my career, I was in the same place you were, not knowing and how to speak up and when to speak up. But if I can give you any advice on that, I think you hit it head on. I think the more you allow people to disrespect you or dismiss you, it grows like a virus. And I think that when you shut it down professionally and respectfully, they understand quickly.
Mhm.
So don't ever feel like you have to accept it. And I would tell anyone, I'm just blown away right now looking at these numbers of how many people are on here listening and
Yay.
paying. And we're sitting at about 435. So
Great.
for those that are sitting out there listening, kudos. And I hope that you take something out of this conversation. And please give us your questions that you would like for us to answer. But I'm going to say to you, Dave, and any young person out there, you are qualified to be in the room or you wouldn't be in the room.
Exactly.
Speak up for
Thank you.
yourself and don't get into the headspace of questioning should or would or why.
Yeah.
You know the answer.
Mhm.
You speak up for yourself, advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
So what would you give her, Dr. Pinkston?
You know, I think when you're young, I think the fear of consequence, you know, am I going to get fired? Am I going to get in trouble, written up, you know, things like that. I think fear of consequence is very, very huge, but she is absolutely right. You are there for a reason. And so you need to live up to that reason. And I do think that, you know, when people are trying to, when they're confrontive, you know, in their manner, I think they respect people more who are confrontive back, and you can be very diplomatic about it. I think being diplomatic is the best way to do it. Now, there's a great book by Brene Brown, and I don't know if either you know much about Brene Brown, but her Dare to Lead series, and she's got a lot of things on YouTube or whatnot. She talks about the uncomfortableness, the rumble, you know, those situations and whatnot, and that is used in a lot of business leadership circles. That, you know, helps to direct people on that. But yeah, I find sometimes when I have even patients sometimes who tend to kind of confront me, when I kind of stand up and confront back, I'm very diplomatic about it, but they tend to kind of respect that. I expect them to be upset and go away and maybe fire me as a doctor. Actually, they come back, and they respect that.
I honestly think that people respect people being genuine and then respecting and standing up for themselves. And those that, because if you're being respectful about it, people walk away from you. They don't need to be in your space in the first place.
Sure.
If you're going to lose that job for being respectful and standing up for yourself and demanding that someone respects you, it's not the place for you in the first place. If you lose that job, there is something waiting on you down the road. But it look like we've been getting a lot of questions in here and comments. And so I'm going to do something a little different. I got Abigail over here.
Yes,
Abigail is going to roll off some of the questions that have come through, and we are going to try to answer them.
Good.
All right. So I see one here from Eddie Miller.
Okay.
Why do people need to push each other in difficult situations?
Who wants to take that? You want to take that, Doc?
Sure.
There you go.
I think, you know, when you are in those difficult situations, and it can be male, female, or even female. I find sometimes there's a lot of female.
There you go. Yes.
Issues for sure. But I think people are uncomfortable with themselves. I think that again, when you said at the beginning, it is more about them, not about you. And I think maybe they have a self-confidence issue, or, you know, they're afraid to kind of I think sometimes you have to take yourself out of the emotional sphere and kind of be in a very practical business, think differently between business and friendship, or business and personal, and just kind of be in that space. But some people can't do that, and they really are not very self-confident. So you know, sometimes maybe they're going through something. You never know what people are experiencing, what they've experienced in the past. You might need to just kind of help them and open up that conversation and say, look, I feel the struggle here between us, and I want to fix it. What can we do? Is there something I can do for you? And I think people would be just literally shocked by that. But
I like that. I really like that, because what you're doing there is turning the table, and not and you're taking the emotion out of it, because you're the emotional side of it. Because when you start dealing with the emotions, then that's all we're dealing with. And now we're becoming more practical, and we're just really, let's have a conversation. Let's step off out of this arena and let's have a conversation. So,
and I think they get hurt somewhere down the line, and
that has nothing to do with you.
Absolutely.
So great question, Eddie Miller. We appreciate you being here, and of course sharing your question. Next.
So that kind of leads into another question. Does gender matter when we try to declare our dominance?
Oh, well, I would say it shouldn't. It shouldn't matter. But I think I'm going to say it shouldn't matter. What would you say, Day?
So this is funny, because I'm reading this book called The Audacity to Queen by Gina DeVee, and she talks about the feminine and the masculine elements in our life. We both can have these too. It's not just women with feminine and men with masculine, but the way we declare it is different. Men, or the masculine mind, is more logical, more pragmatic, more direct. The feminine mind is more nurturing, more compromising, more inclusive. And so I feel like if you are looking at gender roles, I think it really comes down to the masculine and feminine characteristics and how we go about declaring dominance. Because even though I think I'm definitely more of a feminine mind, not just because I'm a woman, but that's just my temperament. And the way I can walk into a room and have humble confidence and like seem like an authority, I'm not even being direct or coming off as like, tough.
Right.
But I know the impact I have in a space, but my dominance is all feminine. So I think it's more about masculine and feminine and how you show up. And then you have some men who have more of a masculine dominance and they tend to do it differently. So, or women who have more of a masculine dominance.
Masculine,
so I think it really depends on the temperament versus gender. That's what I think.
Agreed. Yeah.
Good question. Abigail wants to throw her head in here. Let's see what she has to say.
I had to contribute to this one. And it's kind of something that we mentioned earlier when it comes to age. Like, I think the newer generation, like the gender dominance is kind of less of a thing now. And me personally, almost all of my bosses have been women. I've pretty much always worked for women. And I kind of would describe myself as having a more masculine personality. And so that is kind of how I've like kind of established that dominance. And sometimes I even feel like, do you feel like it's almost harder with women because you're on that same kind of level playing field that you feel like you have to prove yourself even more to a woman than with a man?
Yeah.
Good question. I think I agree with you, and I'm gonna let you take that, Dr. Pinkston, and I'll jump in over here. Go ahead.
Like we were kind of saying earlier, I think sometimes women can be more difficult, and I don't know. I want to put this very well, but I do run into women sometimes who seem a little bit more petty or a little bit more jealous, and I think those are, like Day says, more emotional features that sometimes women can have. Men tend to compete on different types of issues, that seem more practical, but women tend to, I think, compare themselves. I don't think men always compare, but I think women compare themselves sometimes, and there's a little pettiness that goes on with it. And I've never really gotten to the bottom of that.
And I agree with you 100% because women are so, women can be very catty, and they really do compare themselves because of past trauma or something that's going on with them at that particular moment, how they feel about themselves. So they transfer that on to another person. And so I personally, from a business owner, I'm real big on treating my employees the way I want to be treated. So it doesn't matter whether you're a male or a female. We're in a space that we're going to respect everyone. Absolutely. And it's truly a lot of times people say open door policy. Yeah. If you need to talk, come talk to me. My door, whether it's closed or it's open. Right. You're in a space where you should feel comfortable advocating for yourself and talking for yourself. So I hope you answered your question.
Yes, y'all definitely did answer my question.
Okay. Dave said it beautifully on the humble confidence. And that is a great way to describe somebody who definitely carries themselves and knows what they need and want and has that expectation. When you have that humble confidence, you automatically show that you have that expectation the other person's going to behave in that same sense.
Yes.
If they don't, then you also have that humbleness to say, well, this may not be working out between us, but I'm okay. What is going on with you?
You, exactly.
Causing this shit.
I love it. Yes. I love it. I love it. Dave, we're going to have you take this next question. Go ahead.
Before we go to the next question, I wanted to shout out a comment from Facebook. Frank D. Chase said, all women have different kind of emotions and behavior over the time. So that's true. So he was agreeing with you guys on that one.
Wonderful. Okay.
Our next question is Jessica Nelson on Facebook. She said, not being able to talk about your thoughts to others during your early career, how did that affect you?
Oh, Laura, let me tell you. I'll take it at first, and then I'll pass it to you ladies. For me, it affected me in so many ways because early on in my career, I was so happy to be in the space of leadership when I finally made it there that I was just bottling all of that information, all of those emotions up, to the point that it was literally making me sick. I loved what I was doing, but I really hated going into work because, one, it was being placed in a situation where you felt like you were being picked apart. And but but you were good enough to do the job, but you were picked apart. And I really do believe a lot of it had to do with me. Honestly, again, that's why I tend to always push back on that. When a person is trying to hurt you, it's really not about you, it's about them. So a lot of my emotions early on in my career had to do with my own headspace. Some of the things that I grew up with, things that I was told what to expect. Don't go into work talking about what you got at home, what kind of car you drive, just all those old crazy things. And so you take that with you and you create the space for yourself that is unhealthy. So
Yeah.
you want to take
Yeah.
that, Dr. Pinkston?
Yeah, some people I think can also read. I think when you are younger, you may still be a very confident person, but you still aren't used to being in those roles of,
Yes.
leadership or of anything in a take charge
Right.
aspect. And so I know early on, even though I was going to medical school, I went to medical school, there were many times where I just wasn't really comfortable with myself. I'm not sure I always had the self-confidence. And I think it just took time and experience to learn that I am okay where I am. And it is about usually other people and their issues, but they can smell that on you. So if they feel that you have any lack of confidence in yourself whatsoever, they go in, they find that place where you're sensitive and they can go in for the kill on that. And I think that's where people may lose their their ability to work in a space like that, because, and again, it's not about you so much, but you have to take that accountability that, hey, I may not be showing my best confident self, and kind of what is it that I might be doing that allows people can sniff that out very easily.
That is so true. And I had to do some self-reflecting, because what you end up doing, self-reflecting and some growth. I had to, oh, that's okay. I literally had to do some self-growth, look within, and then I had to start doing some of the hard work, dealing with that crap on the inside that was trying to hold me back from where I was going, where I wanted to go. So I hope that answers the question. Dave, you have anything to say to that?
I want to chime in because I recently saw this article on LinkedIn, and it was talking about code switching. So so code switching is when you change basically how you are, your vernacular, how you appear, the language you use for a certain situation. That's talked about a lot in the Black community. When you go to work, the culture that you have is different. So now you have to talk differently. You're not using the same language or vernacular. And so for me, early in my career, that's what changed for me. That's what I had to do. That's what I thought I had to do. So when she asked what changed about not being able to express yourself, I felt like I had to code switch. That I couldn't, it even went as far as like how I wore my hair, or how I, the jokes that I am used to, or the way that I communicate was not, received or understood. It made me feel invisible. Like I couldn't be my authentic self in a place around other people. But I will say that as I've gotten older, and both of you ladies have talked about this, as you've gotten older, I decided I'm not doing that anymore. If I can't show up as Dave, I know I'm professional. I know I got humble confidence.
You go.
Get me, okay?
You go.
That's true.
You gonna get me. I'm just, it's just what it is.
Because it's draining and you can't keep it up. You just can't. There is no way you can keep up switching out.
And
I know
it happens in everybody too. And so I am certain that you have experienced a lot more of that, but it happens, with us too. I find myself even trying to get.
I thought you was just like us, Dr. Pinkston. You're saying you're not of color? No, just
seriously, if you think about it this way, and it may not be as difficult. It really may not. But so I really try to get rid of my Texas accent sometime. And there was a time where I didn't grow my hair out or wear my nails or things like that aren't typical of the doctor. I've never worn my white coat. I've never done, and you're right. I got to a point where I am who I am, and I, will will be, and that humble confidence comes back again, that, you know, I am okay. And that happens to females, and you know,
Yes.
color, females not, but that happens to you know, females in general, where we feel like we've got to change our personality somehow when we're in the room with others, not just men but women also, and you know, we can't be comfortable about our slang, or how we, you know, act at home with when we joke around with others. You can't joke around with people anymore. You can't say something to somebody, they take offense so easily. And so, you know, you're always code switching no matter where you are. You are right, Day. Absolutely. I agree 1,000%.
Yes. Okay, we have a few more questions.
We have some more questions. Let me pick a good one for you guys.
What is Christina saying up there?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Does it boost a person's confidence when we try to declare our existence or dominance to others? This is from Christina Kruger on Facebook.
All righty.
Depends.
Go for it. Okay, go ahead, Doc.
Well, I that's a great question. And
it is.
When you are in the room trying to declare yourself and your existence, I think if you come off in an overall dominance, if you come off as forceful or a little less diplomatic somehow, or if you are trying to overcome somebody else's space, if you mean dominance in that fashion, then, you know, people are going to feel very threatened by that. And I think that's sometimes when men get threatened, when we try to take over their space somehow. And again, I'm going to go back to Dave's statement of humble confidence. You know, you can walk in and declare, I am here, I'm important, I am going to give to this situation. I do know when to be quiet and keep things to myself, but at the same time, I know when to be forthright. And, you know, again, you don't want to step over people's boundaries. And people do have boundaries in situations. You have yours, they have theirs. Those are things that need to be respected despite age, gender, all of that. You know, you do have to respect people's boundaries. So just be cautious about that, but definitely don't be defeated by it.
And exactly, I love it. Perfect. I also think that the boosting your confidence and declaring your, you know, I just think that it starts not just in the meeting, not just in the room at that time. I think it's something that you do every day. It's kind of like just walking, eating, and breathing. As you are learning, or you're doing your job, and you're speaking to people, and you're meeting people, and you're going into meetings, and you're learning new projects, it's going to show it all. It's going to all work together. So when it's time for you to really get up and speak and stand up for yourself, they're going to hear you. They're going to know, because you've been walking a certain way and doing things the right way for a while. They're going to want to know what you do.
Well said. Big time. Yeah. We do it every day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. We have time for some more?
Yes.
Okay, great, because they got them coming.
All right. We'll do this one. So this kind of flips that question a little bit. This is from Terry Beck on YouTube. How can you be more confident when you're face to face with someone and you're trying to show your dominance? Like where can we find that confidence?
Who's trying to show their dominance?
Dominance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're overstepping your boundaries.
Oh. Can I take that? Look.
Yes.
Well, I love that. Well, I believe that when that is happening, first of all, you can always stand up for yourself in a respectful way. That doesn't mean that you have to get up in there and be just as belligerent or ignorant, and I'm gonna call it out, because if someone is trying to show their dominance to the point that they're belittling you, or they're making you feel less than, again, it's something going on with them. So you can show your dominance by sometimes just standing up in a way that is not intimidating. So if that person is here, you don't want to go here. You just kind of want to keep that tone right here, and just keep working with the questions, responding appropriately to what's in front of you versus the emotion.
Yeah.
What would you say on that?
I was going to say that the benefit of being confident is that it gives you control over yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so if someone is trying to show their dominance and you are trying to be confident, all you got to do is continue to have that control. They can, have you ever seen somebody argue where they're like loud and the person responds like, okay, like they're not fazed by all that, I think
Yes, yes,
that
that's
is
gonna
where
bring
the
them right
confidence
on
come in.
down.
You're
Yes,
like, okay, I'm still standing in my confidence. I'm still standing in my control. You going off and getting loud and trying to show your dominance has nothing to do with what's going on right here. I'm still
there you
confident.
go.
I'm still in control. That's how you can be more confident in the face of someone who's trying to show their dominance.
It's over you.
Yeah, very true. And I think too, yeah, that's very, very well said. And
very good.
sometimes you have to just let them do that, and maybe then kind of let things
Expose it. Let them expose themselves.
let them expose themselves, certainly, and you know, and then definitely not respond and engage. You don't want to engage in that, and again, it's kind of a diplomatic behavior. But sometimes you have to just let it go and let the dust settle, let people get their composure back, and then come back at a different time and say, "Can we revisit?" Because you know, I I've taken some time. I hope you have too, and you know, I'd like to revisit that so we can fix the situation. And again, that's one of those rumble things that Brain Brown talks about, is kind of going back into the ring with somebody. But sometimes you can't do it in the moment. You just have to let them, you know, have their moment, but then come back in a way. And I think that you were right too, Val, about carrying yourself day to day. You know, if you are known to be somebody who's reasonable and confident and, you know, and diplomatic and function well in sphere and a good leader and all that, when somebody does go off in that space, you know, everybody else is going to know who the pro is in the room.
There you go.
Don't worry about what others are thinking, even if it appears they win their argument or whatnot. You know, they're going to know. Everybody knows who the you know,
who the clown is.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna call it. Yeah, exactly.
you got it.
Who the clown is. All righty. What else we have?
All right. Let's see.
I'm loving this.
This is from Lucas on YouTube. Have you ever felt that someone has pressured you by their opinions?
Yeah.
Wow. Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, I don't know. Yes. I mean, who hasn't? And I think we even see that on social media. Sometimes you can just lay a comment, and my trainer and I were talking about that this morning. You can just, she was talking about runners wearing masks out on the street outside when they're by themselves running and they're wearing a mask. And you know, she made a comment on Facebook, and oh my gosh, people just went off. You know, I think, and it's the political and the religious atmospheres and things like that. I think, you know, sometimes when you are in that situation again and feeling pressured, I just, you have to keep going back to, there's something inside them that is, you know, not right. And again, you just have to face them in those same manners. And again, let them be the clown that they are. And just,
you know,
keep your composure and stay confident.
Keep your cool and just kind of just, you know, that's on them. You can't allow other people to control your emotions and your outcome.
If you respond with emotion like that, it's going to elevate the situation. And I was telling her, she was responding with somebody who was being troll and being difficult. And I said, you know, Sonny, you might just back up and just say, you know, look, I'm a trainer and I'm trying to approach this from a medical aspect. I'm not trying to take somebody's freedoms away or judge them in any way. I'm just trying to speak from a medical perspective. Is this healthy or not an emotional factor, you know? And so try to be more, you know, diplomatic in that way, more professionals in a more professional sense, rather than, I think sometimes people feel like they're being attacked or, you know,
that's what it is.
Right.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
And it's a boundary thing again. So yeah, I think that's part of it.
All right. Do you have anything to say to that? You haven't?
No, I agree with Dr. Pinkston. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, I agree, and I nodded my head when she said they felt attacked. It's almost as if people are always on the defense based on their own beliefs, you know. And so when you say something that they weren't targeting you, they weren't calling you out, you felt offense by what they said.
Yeah,
you know, I can imagine that trainer talked in general about masks. Why are you running with a mask? Why are you mad? Like,
right. Why are you mad? Were you out there jogging?
Mad? Exactly. So that's the thing. People weigh in, and it's something else going on. So
absolutely, always
it's a lot.
100%. Okay, Abigail, give it to us.
This kind of got brought up earlier, but do you ever think your dominance might be unseen by the younger generation? And I kind of want to like take that a step further. Do you think the younger generation maybe has less respect for authority? Because that's something I've noticed. So I just want to see how y'all feel about that.
You know what? I actually don't. When I went to some conferences recently, we addressed the generational differences, and it brought a lot of open eye to me, kind of a great understanding. And I don't think so. I think their abilities and their thinking capabilities and structure is different. So I walked into my son's room the other night, and he was playing a video game while doing his history homework and his English homework, and talking to a friend, and all this stuff is going on at the same time. And he's a straight A student. He did well on his tests and paper that he was doing, plus he won the video game. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think their abilities, their multitasking abilities and things like that are different. They like to show up more and have more casual Friday every day rather than just one day a week, or they just need a lot more feedback, more instant feedback, because of you're in a video game and you do something, you get instant feedback and stats about it and can adjust or whatnot. So there's a whole different way of thinking, and you look at kind of our generation in a way, and we're more slow. We'll stay our 90 days and then get our 90-day feedback, or we are more about kind of taking on tasks and concentrating on things one at a time or whatnot. So I think those generational differences really are just differences in how we task and think and whatnot. I don't think there's a lack of respect. I just think we do things differently.
Well, I'm going to take that. I agree with you, what you're saying in regards to us doing things differently. There she is, doing things differently. But I do think that there are some element of that younger generation that don't really respect authority or take it serious, because I think that it's a fraction of that generation, or the younger generation, that is okay with pushing the envelope more so than we were. Right. We were taught, our generations were taught, okay, you need to leave the rooms, adults is in here, you're not going to be in here when we're talking. Or we were taught from early, respect authority, respect adults. And it's not that this next generation wasn't taught that, but they are the why. Why do I have to? Why do I need to respect someone that's not respecting themselves? Or why do I need to respect someone that's been nasty to my mother? You get what I'm saying? I just think that they're just the why. So that's my thought.
Do they not get taught that though? Because and I'm not saying
that's a good thing,
better than others or anything, but I taught my son how to open doors for women and do things like that. I taught my children to leave the room when those today. And so
yes,
that was a big deal to me. And I notice a lot of parents don't teach things. They'll be at Walmart and the kid is screaming and crying for a candy bar. They give them a candy bar. Therefore, next time they go to Walmart, what are they going to do? Scream and cry. And so I wonder if there's some of those teachings that kind of get lost upon it. But I know society is different too, because we're all very concerned about our own being able to exude our own feelings and thoughts and rights. And I watched a movie the other day with doesn't matter, but what Denzel Washington. He was the lawyer, and he was giving a speech about men. You need to get up and open the door for your ladies, and you need to get up and give them the seat on the bus. And this woman this young lady spoke up and said, "I don't need no man doing anything like that for me." And I'm not trying to make fun of anybody with gestures or anything, but that's what she said and how she said it. And I don't need that in any way. Men don't need to do those things for me. And I'm like, really? That would make me sad if we didn't approach that anymore. But those are the differences back and forth that I see. I know a lot of parents don't teach well anymore.
Well, I agree. I think that there are some parenting that can be improved, but I also think that there are some kids, some young adults that have been taught, but they still push. They're willing to say, "Hey, my opinion matters," until you can kind of teach them how to approach that situation. They're going to have difficulties in the workplace because they feel like, "Hey, I got this job. My opinion matters. And if you don't do what I want you to do, I'm gone, or nothing's going to happen." So that's just kind of my thought on that.
Yeah,
We-
I told
I-
my kids, do that.
Go ahead. Dan.
I have a thought on that. When you talk about the younger generation, I think dominance is, they receive dominance in a different way. Like you said, the older generation, you looked at dominance through maybe experience, time, age, titles, respect. I think the younger generation sees dominance through influence, and what influences them. And I often joke about, people gave millennials such a hard time about not being respectful, not being team players, kind of being entitled. And I used to joke when I was used to teach around generational differences, like, well, who raised them?
Yeah.
The millennials were raised by the baby boomers.
Yes.
Those were your kids.
Yes.
Created to be this way. And
Absolutely.
I think about the baby boomers were so structured, and they probably had a little PTSD when they had their kids. Like, I'm never going to make my kids do this, this, this. And look at what happened. You got these outspoken, free thinking,
absolutely,
kids. And also, I think that the older generations had limited influences in our lives. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have a cell phone to look up any and everything. So everything you heard was from parents, church, teachers, maybe your neighborhood friends.
100%.
Your opinions, your beliefs can be shaped from so many different places. Absolutely. So even if you are a parent who's weighing in on your kids, they're getting their information and their influence from millions of places. So you're competing with all that. So how are you going to say open doors and do this when they get on TikTok and they're like, I don't need this? It's just gonna be a challenge. I don't even know how I'm gonna do it, but
very
well said.
Thank God my parenting is over with.
Exactly. I feel that way so much too.
Oh Lord, I feel for you. It's so true. I know. I tell you, I want to say this, and God, we have 10 minutes left. We've had some amazing questions. I want to take the time to really thank all of the viewers that have stayed on here, that have been encouraging us and asking questions and commenting out here. But there was a question that came up. It was actually two that I really don't want to leave without, or was it a comment, without responding to?
I think the one you pointed out, I put it up on the screen. Let me find it.
Okay. I know they were going so fast. I couldn't keep up with them. Yeah. So that's great.
We have another question from Amy on YouTube.
Okay.
She said, what do you think we should do to make the generation aware that that's not how a person should behave?
Okay. Here's the thing. I think that when it's an opportunity for you as the older generation, my generation, to encourage and teach, you do it in a way that you're not making them feel less than, but you do it in a way from experience. What's going to be the outcome of this behavior if you don't make some changes? Be open to, and I think the younger generation need to be open to hear, and we should be willing to also hear them. Allow them to give you their perspective of why they're doing it that way. And then instead of just shoving something down their throats, then you go back and you share with them how you can make it better.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to contribute to that too. As someone who is, I would say, of the younger generation, I'm 24. I was always taught to speak my mind and to say what I'm thinking, right? And I was raised by a single mother, so she kind of encouraged that in me. And I remember in high school, I corrected a teacher because he was teaching a lesson about we were talking about like the first colored movie, the movie in color. And he was referencing The Wizard of Oz, which I know that movie like the back of my hand. And he said something that was incorrect about the plot line of the story. And I said, that's not true. And like, he kind of looked at me like, and everyone in the class looked at me like I was crazy. And I was like, I mean, it's not true. You know what I mean? And I didn't mean it disrespectful. And I don't even think I really came off disrespectful. But at the time, even just, what was that? Like maybe a little less than 10 years ago, like it was, like, I felt like wrong for speaking my mind. So like, how can somebody who, is confident and is, outspoken, how can they approach situations like that where they know they need to say something, but like it may not be the right time or the right place?
Right. I think that's it. I think it's a right time and a right place because, first of all, did it matter whether that plot reference was correct or not, that you're also in a classroom full of kids and he is the authority in the room. And to just kind of maybe it was the way it was said too, just to outright say, that's not true. If that's how, you said, then I would have been like, or, you could have come up to me maybe after class and mentioned that. So I wouldn't do it. And that would be fine. That don't mind, but I wouldn't mind that. But in front of other people, it may have come off as a challenge of his authority, which he was rightfully has as an authority.
Yeah.
He can be corrected. It's never bad to correct somebody if they're doing something wrong. But again, you have to look at how you're doing it and the timing of it, I think, is important. But I think if we're going to change an entire generation, it starts at home.
It does.
And you have to be taught that. If you've already made it, first of all, you do not come from a great home. There's a lot of people in terrible situations, raised in horrible situations, and they are and not taught from home. I don't know how you can overcome that. You just maybe, and they'll learn from, they'll learn from their difficult situations and eventually pick it up and go. It would be hard to change an entire generation based on that.
I agree. And I again, it's timing and it's your deliverance. I think if you always remember those two things, timing and deliverance, you'll be okay. Timing and deliverance.
Absolutely.
So I think well said. And I think it is, what is the clock saying? Well, we're going to take time. I want to tell everyone, thank you. I am so excited about career conversation, VK's career conversation. I love talking with Dr. Pinkston and Dave Smith. Every time you guys, when we get on here, it's like just having conversation, girl conversation, women and men. As you can see, we had just as many men in here commenting and conversating with us as we had women. And I'm excited to know that when you just sit down and you have a conversation with someone, you learn so much more about yourself. And then you also have the opportunity to learn how much you've grown. Right. So I'm glad to see that I've grown a little bit, and even this conversation today. But before we end, I would like for Dave and Dr. Pinkston to tell the people a little bit more about you and where they can find you. Sure. And what was your experience on this conversation?
I'll start with the last question. The experience was great. Even just talking about, sometimes the conversations help me more than anything. It's for me to communicate and form my own thoughts about questions that I probably hadn't asked myself or had discussion with. So thank you for just the rich conversation that we have, that it's helpful to me, honestly.
Wow, thank you.
Yes. And as a mompreneur and a business owner, I do help professionals and entrepreneurs be more organized. And if you're struggling with that, especially in the digital space, I do have a website you can visit. It's right here in my notes, simplicitybyday.com. And I am on all the social channels, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook at Simplicity by Day. Would love to connect with you guys and mention that you were a part of Career Conversations so I can show you some love too.
All righty then. Yes, please do. Absolutely. And Dr. Pinkston.
Yeah, you need to check out Day on Instagram. She's got some good stuff.
Yeah, she got some good stuff out there.
And I've enjoyed this as well. This has been terrific. And I love the different ages, the different viewpoints. I think this has been great. I love the viewers. There's been some great comments and questions. This is really, really very useful, I think. And so, and I'm with Day. I can be found in areas too. I come from a medical perspective. The podcast and the YouTube is all about education. I do some local community stuff, but mainly I try to reach out. It is a national podcast, and I try to reach out certain medical issues and things that we need to look at from a medical perspective, and answer questions about health issues that many doctors don't really face and don't talk about. So try to give you a little bit of a different point of view on how to handle some of your health situations or life situations. And so you can find that at drpbetterlife.com, and that will have all the YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, all of those. I'm on every platform, which is wonderful. But also too, you can find some other information, blogs and things like that, and kind of my story and whatnot. I would love to see you guys on Instagram at Dr. Pinkston, Dr. Marianne Pinkston. So Dr. Marianne Pinkston. And then I'm also on the Pinkston Radio and Podcast on Facebook too. So please check out. everything.
Okay. And thank you guys again so much. Thanks you to all of the listeners and all of the great comments. And I want to give a special shout out to Abigail. Abigail is always on every platform, taking care of me, making sure, and definitely engaging. So I couldn't have a better coordinator behind my back. So
True.
thank you,
True.
Abigail.
Awesome.
Until next time. Bye-bye, everyone.